All right, YouTube. So this is going to be my reaction slash analysis to the debate between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. It was about 58 minutes long. It was a very interesting debate. Ted Cruz, I think he came out on top, and I think this is because of what he represents. So he is a pro-gun, pro-tax cut kind of guy. Beto O'Rourke, on the other hand, is anti-gun, anti-tax, or anti-tax cut rather. So in a red state like Texas, I just don't think that's really going to serve Beto O'Rourke well. His best bet was to basically become a blue dog Democrat, similar to Connor Lamb up there in Pennsylvania. But and I think for the most part, the Democratic Party could definitely benefit from being more embracing of the Second Amendment. Anyways, the first 12 minutes of the debate were pretty tense. They brought up some wedge issues, including the kneeling and the female officer who had shot a man in what she believed to be her apartment. And they kind of they got all of their low blows out of the way, so they got everything off of their chest, and the rest of the debate was fairly civil. With Ted Cruz, he basically defended the police officer, and I think most of us with common sense would probably say that she was at fault, and she was drinking too. I mean, that's no excuse. And Beto O'Rourke also doubled down on his rhetoric about the kneeling. So he said, the most American thing you can do is protest. I don't think it's the most American thing you can do, but I think it's it's American because you're essentially you're exercising your right to free speech. So that's obviously very important. And I've kind of had a change of heart on the kneeling too. Like, I don't watch football anyways. I don't know. I guess I'm pretty indifferent to the kneeling, to be honest. Yeah, so the first 12 minutes, very tense. They were talking about those two wedge issues. Later on, though, it just really seemed that Beto O'Rourke really had a hard time kind of pleading his case as to why he would be a good senator representing the state of Texas. I really think he's got a really big problem if he's going to be against guns and against tax cuts, and not, against guns. That's kind of a broad statement, but being a proponent for the assault weapons ban, it's not something that's going to win over a lot of voters in Texas, in my opinion. There is a very interesting parallel, though, here between the gun debate and the drug debate. Beto O'Rourke, he mentioned the fact that a lot of Texas prisons are overcrowded due to drug offenses, and drug offenders rather are overcrowding the prisons, and he's absolutely right. I think this is where the Republicans are completely inept when it comes to drugs. It's like pretty much a parallel between the Democrats and guns and the Republicans and drugs. It's like both of them are completely inept when it comes to that. And Ted Cruz has a personal experience with drug overdoses. Apparently, I guess his older sister had died from a drug overdose, so very sad. But the argument that they're making for prohibiting drugs and guns, it just falls flat, because you're basically assuming that the people are incapable of taking care of themselves. Because I do believe that all guns and all drugs should be legal. That's my opinion. I'm kind of radical in that regard, but that's, and I think most Americans honestly are probably saying, why not? There's a lot of overcrowding in the prisons, and think about it. You could tax the shit out of the drugs and bring in a lot more money rather than borrowing money from China and other countries. So, anyways, moving on. Ted Cruz mentioned Stephen Williford. He talked about how he was at the Sutherland Springs Church the day after the shooting, and he also took a jab at Beto O'Rourke. This is after kind of the period where they're getting everything off of their chest. So later on in the debate, Ted Cruz kind of said that, well, Beto O'Rourke claims to be, a good representative of Texas, even though he goes around to each county doing a photo op and doing a speech in front of reporters. And, that's a really good point. I just think that Ted Cruz, honestly, among Texans is probably more likable. And that's not really saying that much. It's just, that's kind of how, out of touch Beto O'Rourke is with Texans, in my opinion. And, let's move on. By the way, these are the notes that I'm reading off here, just in case you didn't know what was going on. Let's see. This was interesting. So Beto O'Rourke had a DWI back in 1998, and he mentioned the fact that because he's white, he got a less harsh punishment. And he's kind of one of these guys that talks about the apparent racial or the systematic racism within our justice system. He's a true believer in that. I just don't think you can make that statement and back it up with facts. On the other hand, there is a lot of racists around the country, and there probably is some racist cops. So, it's going to happen. Unfortunately, it is going to happen. And the media doesn't help. The media basically, milks the shit out of these stories. So I don't know where I was going with that, but anyways, I just think that Beto O'Rourke, as long as he's talking about white privilege in Texas, it's just very stupid, man. Very stupid. Yeah. Even the Latinos are listening to that and thinking, like, what the fuck? What is this guy talking about, honestly? All right. Let's see. Notes. Beto O'Rourke, there's some rumors going around on the internet that he's taking money from Soros. He's going around saying that he's the most grassroots candidate there is, but he probably has taken money from Soros, honestly, because some of the talking points that he's using, especially when it comes to white privilege and that shit. I mean, that's right out of Soros's playbook, honestly. Let's see. This is interesting. So both candidates actually oppose the tariffs that Trump has proposed, and that's probably that makes sense. Coming from Ted Cruz, the Republican, most Republicans are automatically against the tariffs. Although Cruz was kind of, he was kind of saying, well, I understand. I'm against the tariffs, but I kind of understand why we're doing them, and he understands that. I guess the goal is to basically, initiate a trade war and eventually get back to zero tariffs on both sides. Yeah, Beto O'Rourke, and it's kind of surprising. Most Democrats are automatically for tariffs. So, interesting little moment there in the debate. And apparently, Beto O'Rourke has also met with Wilbur Ross, who's in the Trump administration, talking to him, or I guess trying to plead his case against the tariffs, because Wilbur Ross is a big proponent of the tariffs. And the debate ended pretty good. I mean, it was fairly civil at the end. They basically took 90 seconds to exchange compliments. I think Ted Cruz kind of got a little off message because he said something along the lines of, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he kind of did like an underhanded compliment of Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke really handled himself well in that moment, so he complimented Ted Cruz on being a really good dad, and basically talked about how it must be hard being away on the campaign trail and all that. So that was a really nice moment. I was really glad that they were able to end the debate on a really nice note. With and then this was interesting. Beto O'Rourke quoted Harry S. Truman. I think he may have been a Texan. I'm not sure, but Harry S. Truman made a comment on Texas before. Oh, here we go. Yes. He. I'm just looking at the chat here. Beto is your responsible truck driver. Yeah. And when you're inconsistent on things, that's always going to come back and bite you. I think the one thing you can say about Ted Cruz is that he's been consistently consistent with his own policies. Beto O'Rourke, on the other hand, I don't know. But look, if the Democrats or any Democrats are listening, any Democratic strategists are listening, the number one thing you can do to start winning over the centrist voters is to be more pro-Second Amendment. If you do that, you're going to win over a lot of the centrist voters, in my opinion. It's just not a very good message to go off, guys. If you continue to talk about taking guns away, or maybe even like you're trying to hide the fact that you are trying to take guns away and you're just kind of making that whole lame excuse of trying to keep people safe. Well, the one thing that Beto O'Rourke didn't acknowledge, though, was the Stephen Williford case where he was a good Samaritan and he shot the shooter and basically prevented more people from dying. That's my argument for gun control. It's like, you're going to basically prevent law-abiding citizens from protecting other law-abiding citizens. And, yeah. All right, that was a pretty good take. I'm going to end it on that. Thank you for watching, guys. This was something I'm trying new, because honestly, I took like 40 takes to do my first video on trying to do this. So I just said, fuck it, I'll do a live stream. That way there's more pressure on me not to make any gaffes or anything. So I think that I think that Ted Cruz is probably going to get reelected. But this is an interesting thing though with Beto O'Rourke. I think that he's going to at least open up the conversation for Democrats to be running in Texas. But big but, you got to, or if they don't embrace guns, if they don't embrace the Second Amendment, especially in Texas, the Democrats are pretty much objectively finished. Honestly, Connor Lamb, that would be a good Democrat to model your guys' party after, in my opinion. So, all right, guys, God bless. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later if I can figure out how to end this live stream here. Okay, there we go. Bye, guys.